there, Colleen. We're talking about several hundred protesters. I would say maybe half as much as yesterday. And you can see there are a handful of people right here in this shot who refused a dispersal order that was given a short time ago.
Welcome to the Paul Levette Show. I am your host, Paul Levette, and welcome to another episode of our top 3 issues from the day prior. And we're going to continue on in regards to the Los Angeles immigration riots. And our 3 areas we're going to hit today being first, the morning after the party. Second, what's happening today. A lot happened today. And we're going to clarify the president's use of the military. So on our first issue, the morning after the party, we're looking at a 40-year-old Elpidio Reyes, I believe is the pronunciation. And he's waking up today after being splashed all over the media yesterday of him throwing rocks at passing federal vehicles as they were leaving a detention center in Los Angeles. So let's step down. So here is Mr. Reyes on the FBI's most wanted list, which is pretty incredible. The day before, you're in the excitement of all the people around you. Now, typically, we're thinking of sports. We come together and, in respectable circles to work on a common goal and a common objective. But I think Mr. Reyes missed the point there, because his efforts to work with a group and work toward a common goal, unfortunately, was one of injuring and assaulting federal agents. So now he has to deal with those ramifications of those. And now today, the morning after the party, his face is all over America, and every law enforcement agency, particularly the FBI, wants to find Mr. Reyes. And here we have him, a clear picture of him, a picture in his infamous helmet from yesterday. And another photo there. Just remember, if you should run into this individual, you could make $50,000 by identifying him and reporting him to the FBI. But remember, he should be considered armed and dangerous. So let's go ahead and take a look at our famous Mr. Reyes. Let's take a look at his video clip, his 15 minutes of fame that's probably going to end up being 8 to 10 years in jail. Really? That is how you think you're helping the immigrant cause? By throwing rocks at federal vehicles? You could shatter a windshield, cause an accident, hurt the individuals within the vehicle, or the person could lose control and crash into the other protesters. So you really are a danger to the federal agents, and you're a danger to your fellow protesters out there. And so I don't know. It just kind of leaves me speechless that anyone could do this thing. But once again, Mr. Reyes is waking up after the night of partying, wondering, wow, what happened yesterday? And his friends tell him, hey, dude, you're all over the news. The FBI is after you now. Well, actions have consequences, and now Mr. Reyes is going to have to deal with those consequences, which is probably going to involve a very, very long time in prison. Now, let's move on to item number 2, which is what is occurring today. And there are 2 items I want to look at, and as we are on day 5 of this protest. So the 2 items being first, an unlawful assembly, and the second being protesters entering the 101 freeway. So first, we look at the unlawful assembly. And this here, in this picture here, we have a group of people surrounded by police officers, a very orderly situation. What occurred was, before this, was a peaceful protest by immigrant rights advocates That went well. A fine example of the First Amendment protection to assemble and seek redress. And what occurred was after that peaceful protest, there was a unlawful assembly declared. And the police gave these individuals opportunity to leave because you're required to leave the area once a unlawful assembly has been declared. So what's happening now is they're surrounded. They cannot leave at this point. They're going to be zip-tied, handcuffed, loaded on buses, and carted off to jail where they're probably going to be cited and released. But if you didn't have a police record before, you're going to have one now, and that may help or hurt your future prospects for employment. So now we want to look at take a look at the video of the individuals entering the 101 freeway. So as you can see here, there is just a disregard for their own safety, the safety of the people driving, and just imagine that one of these poor drivers had hit and killed one of these protesters. It's just a total disregard. But what I do want to highlight the danger that our police officers face daily.
What do you do? What do you do? Here we go. Look at this.
And you see the first police car pulls up to try and get a control of the situation. They're having water bottles thrown at them before they can even get their helmets on. I mean, a really dangerous situation for them. And hopefully the perpetrators throwing bottles can be found. Now I want to move to the organization of police this day. So back at you saw the picture of the unlawful assembly. See how orderly the officers have them surrounded. They have their batons in a position. The situation is controlled, de-escalated, orderly process. Now, with the California Highway Patrol, they pull up. We see them run to the aid of the other officers. They form their line, and then they proceed to push the protesters from the second side of the freeway to the first side that they had entered. Then from there, they kind of organized again and proceeded to push them off to the side of the freeway. Unfortunately or fortunately, a couple protesters got arrested. They gave the officers no choice, and they'll have to address that themselves. But the organization was so good on this day. They got the protesters off the freeway back onto, I believe it's Aliso Boulevard, running parallel to the 101. So this organization of the LAPD and the California Highway Patrol was spectacular. They finally got there on day 5, but we needed this on day 1, night 1, or night 2. Okay, we're surprised by the level of it on night 1, but night 2 should have had these things, this organization, to control the situation. And then the other thing that's happening on day 5 is Mayor Karen Bass has ordered a curfew. The curfew runs from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. And this is going to work just wonders on keeping the peace and keeping things lawful, because now if you're out, you can just easily be arrested, carted off to jail, and we can maintain the peace. So bravo to Karen Bass, 5 days late, but she has called the curfew for the evening. So these are all things that Highway Patrol, LAPD, and Karen Bass, these things should have happened the first night, the second night, but I guess maybe we're going to say better late than never. Now let's move on to item number 3. And that is the president's use of the military and whether Governor Newsom is right or wrong. So let's look at a video of Department of Homeland Security head Kristi Noem's statement that the president does have the authority under the Constitution, under USC 10, the Insurrection Act.
He has every authority under the Constitution to send these National Guard under Title 10 into these communities and make sure that operations go smoothly, that law enforcement officers are protected, that they can continue to do their work without fear of being injured or killed or disrespected, and that they can go home to their families.
So now let's go take a closer look at USC 10. So in our first slide here, the Insurrection Act being 10 USC 251 through 255. And this is the primary federal authority that allows the president to deploy U.S. active duty military forces and federalize the National Guard within the United States for law enforcement purposes. So clearly here, we know the president is using the military for this purpose. And now there's going to be 3 acts that we're tying together here. And the first being, or subsection, being 252, use of the military and armed forces to enforce federal authority. So it specifically says, allows the president to use the militia or armed forces to enforce federal laws or suppress rebellion if unlawful obstruction, combinations, or assemblages or rebellions make it impractical to enforce federal laws by ordinary means. This does not require a state's approval or a state's request. So one of the key points of Gavin Newsom's claim against the president's use is he did not go through him. Here is USC 10 252 tells us clearly otherwise. Newsom is wrong. Next, let's take a look at 253. Interference with state and federal laws. This is our second authority to use the military. Allows the president to use the militia or armed forces to suppress domestic violence, unlawful combinations, or conspiracies if they hinder the execution of the laws of any state or the United States, or if they deprive people of constitutional rights, and the state authorities are unable or unwilling to protect those rights. This also does not require a state's request. So clearly we have a case here, as we see time and time again, where the state of California or any blue state where the authorities refuse to enforce the law. They allow these people to run amok, destroy the city, burn the city. They just refuse to uphold the law. That is a primary thing that the president or authority the president is charged with, is maintaining the law within the nation. So these are the 2 authorities by which the president has deployed the National Guard and the Marines. And we're going to set one further here. We see 10 USC 12406. This is the mechanism by which the president activates or federalizes the National Guard. And once they're federalized, then they answer to the president. The governor of a state is out of the chain of command at that point. Once they're federalized, they are practically active duty military reporting to the commander-in-chief. So those are the legal authorities that the president has. Now, yesterday I did mention that Governor Newsom was going to sue the president over this issue. And as we see here in black and white, the president has the authority to do what he's doing. And we also see the mechanism, the federalization of how he can do it. That is the mode by activating them and, in essence, taking them away from the governor's authority. So it is what we have today that came late today was they did file their lawsuit. And, of course, San Francisco, the most liberal place you could, and guess what happened? They had requested an emergency injunction to force the president to remove the military. It was denied. The judge did not give them that, and has set the hearing date will be this coming Thursday, 2 days from now. So let's take a look, a news report from Channel 7 and ABC 7 in Los Angeles, and like to thank them for their great reporting, a lot of information they're putting out there, even though we can clearly see their liberal bias in a lot of their reports. But thank them for the information they have put out. So here's the video.
Federal judge in San Francisco has denied Governor Newsom's request to block the Trump administration from using the National Guard and Marines to assist with the immigration protests.
And Eyewitness News reporter Carlos Granda joining us now in studio with more on that decision and what's next.
And all of that happened just in the last few minutes. The judge denying a request by Governor Gavin Newsom and the state of California for an emergency temporary restraining order to block the deployment of these troops. That means for now, they will stay. It's been a war of words between President Donald Trump and Governor Gavin Newsom.
So there you have it. The Governor Newsom is clearly wrong. Before I put this to press, I did see there's a video of him railing against the president and blaming the president because the president is enforcing the law. The president is somehow in liberal bass and in the Newsom's mind that the president is responsible for these immigrants, these lawless immigrant advocates who are going around the city, burning cars, breaking into businesses, looting the merchandise from these businesses. It's President Trump's fault because he has sent in the military to secure and stop the lawlessness. Explain to me that logic. That is only something that Democrats do in their lust for power. So there we have it. We're going to jump out of this for today. I will follow up certainly on Thursday as we see what the judge does with this case. You and I know now that we've looked at USC 10, we know the president clearly has the authority. The items identified in the statute, if you will, have clearly been met in this situation. So remember, whenever you hear from Governor Newsom, hopefully I can get that video for you tomorrow. Know that is all grandstanding to him. He does not care about, well, his actions say he doesn't really care about what's happening in the city. But my personal point of view is that all he's doing is positioning himself to run for president in 2028. So there we have it. 3 items that I would like that I've covered for today. I hope you have enjoyed it. Remember to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification button. And of course, continue the conversation in the comments below. And you can always reach me privately at oracle@thepaullevetshow.com.